Evening, everybody.
How we doing, Ricky? You all right?
Good, Joe. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Yeah, I've had the pleasure today of going through the pictures from some of the Sakai ponds. So, yeah, it's been a fun day editing some of them pictures and
Yeah, nice,
yeah, having a look
nice.
through them. What about yourself?
Ah, mate, it's been a disaster today. Everything that's gone wrong's potentially gone wrong.
Oh, brilliant!
Kid disasters and all sorts. And then, yeah, there we go.
Fantastic.
It's hard work. You don't realise how much you depend on people, don't you? Both my mum and my dad and the mother-in-law had all been away. So it's kind of like a big part of the old support network missing.
Yeah.
Good fun, mate. Good fun.
Yeah.
Well,
What a
there we
nightmare.
go.
But yeah, I thought we people who maybe not seen what's been going on this week. Do you want to go through what's been happening at the
Yeah,
farm?
autumn harvest week, innit? So we started pulling up the bulk of the ponds. I say the bulk, actually. We've done like probably about 6 or 7 ponds.
Yeah.
And yeah, obviously getting stuff out, prepped up for sale. It's that time of year where, to be honest, the unheated ponds outside, we've only got kind of a limited time window that we can comfortably settle fish in there without kind of dropping into a deep sulk.
Yeah.
So yeah, really, really important to get stuff out while the weather's kind of, I don't know what to call it, half decent. To be fair, it's not bad, really, is it?
Not bad. It's supposed to be good again next weekend. I've heard
Mm.
up to 20 again or something like that. So
Yeah, and obviously we need to. What's that? Congratulations, John. Oh yeah, nice.
yeah, quite a few people have commented. I've had a few direct messages as well. It's really cool how this has all become part of a community. To be fair,
Yeah, it's nice, mate, isn't it? Yeah.
I've got to know loads of people through Koi Wholesale.
Mm,
It really is a cool little community we've got going on, isn't it?
absolutely, it is.
Yeah.
I agree with that. So yeah, I've lost my thread now. Yeah, harvest time. So it's really important to start getting obviously fish out. You know, people waiting for stuff, dealers waiting for stuff. Everybody's kind of out looking for bits. So yeah, and it's nice for me to finally get to really see them all up close after all
Yeah.
the time and start seeing the results and actually see what I've got. And yeah, buzzing for it. Absolutely buzzing for it. I think I don't like to say it myself, but I'm happy with the results. So I think should go a long way in other people being impressed with what's coming out.
Yeah. It's phenomenal, really.
How have you
But
found it, Joe? I'm sure people are curious to know.
yeah, to be fair, I was speaking to Chris this morning. I said this has probably been my favourite week of working here. I just think, in terms of like what's been going on this week, yeah, it's just phenomenal. I think one of the big parts that I've kind of taken away from this week is my perception on Deutz fish, and I know we briefly spoken about it yesterday,
Mm,
but I'm seeing some really awesome pieces, and I think my perception on them is changing slightly.
yeah.
Obviously, we've got some amazing Kawakami Shisui, but other than that, there's some of the like Deutsche Chiba from Kokai that we pulled up
Mm,
yesterday were absolutely insane.
yeah.
And speaking to the dealers as well, like sometimes I find it really easy to like crawl back into hobbyist mode. But some of the dealers were coming up to me and saying that just sells instantly in the
Mm,
shop. And sometimes I forget that,
mm,
sometimes we can put a fish out there and I might not particularly like it, but what actually sells really well in stores might be completely different. And, you know,
absolutely.
yeah, I can kind of see that different narrative, I guess, now.
Yeah.
But the dealers that you've got long term connections with,
Hmm.
and it were really nice to see them all networking together themselves yesterday as well. And
Yeah,
it's
I
not.
always enjoy that element, I'm coming together, and because I think there's this perception, there is a side of the industry, generally tends to be a group I don't deal with,
Yeah,
that if you had them all in a room together, it'd be a bloodbath, to be
yeah,
fair. But
yeah,
yeah, a lot of them guys really do well when they're together. So they get on. Wait, it should be really. There's no
yeah,
mutual animosity and shit and backstabbing and all the rest of it gets quite tedious.
yeah. But what was your highlight of the week then for you?
I think the Shisuis are up there, mate.
Yeah,
I think
Yeah.
they're right up there. But to be fair, there's one particular Sakai Kohaku that got pulled out of the pond, and I've known for ages it was the best fish in there. It's
Yeah.
insane, but I'd not really had it out, and as it came up and I sexed it, it's actually female as well.
Oh, yeah.
Is just trust me, right? The amount of times that happens is just once in a blue moon. It really, the amount of time I've had one and gone, oh, come on, maybe, and then no, not that I
Yeah.
mind, I don't mind the male stuff, but it is nice to get a little win like that one.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I have put some of the pictures that I've edited on here. If you
Okay.
want to have a little quick run
Which
through.
is this the stuff from Pond 28?
Yeah. So it was actually the
Oh, so
harvest
these,
before
yeah,
the.
I've actually got these out before I went to Japan.
Yeah. So.
Just to relieve some pressure on the pond that this was in. These were in.
But I thought people might like to see. I mean, this isn't even the final selection, is it? We've actually had another, like you've said, another selection of even better stuff than this come out. But yeah, some quality pieces, and I just thought people might be
Yeah.
a little bit interested
Obviously,
to.
while we're nattering, folks, if you've got any questions, feel free to drop them in. We will just carry on nattering. We always seem to manage to chew an hour up quite easily, Joe, don't we?
Oh, easily,
But
yeah,
yeah, feel free, folks, and we'll do what we can.
yeah. So
Yeah,
this
so
was one.
that's Sakai Dragon Ball. That one.
Is it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
female as
really
well.
nice. Yeah, Shiroji just on point with that in it,
It
and
is. The nice thing with these is these have now had probably 3-ish weeks, maybe 4 weeks now for the Shiroji to start conditioning, the rest of the skin to start conditioning.
yeah,
Some
just
sumi movement as well.
was really nice.
Yeah, nice. Obviously, it's would be nice if it had a patch of Benny on that other side for sure. But there's going to be some sumi cover in there, which will make a big
Yeah,
difference to it visually. But
and then
these aren't fish that are going to be crazy money. They're very accessible for like a Nisai female fish from Sakai. There be a steal really when they do make it online.
yeah, stunning. And then yeah, this was one that I tried to
Oh,
sneak into.
that's gone today. That has actually.
Has it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
what a piece, Dichi.
really stunning. Yeah.
Mm,
Look at
look
that.
at that. I know.
Unbelievable. Unreal.
Yeah, a very valuable piece. That one. Nice.
Yeah, going to be exciting moving forward. That.
Mm.
And then another Sankey, a little bit more of a head shape, a little bit different to the others as well.
Yeah, very Subo Sumi based. That where you get
Yeah,
the Sumi on the Shiroji. Very very nice.
yeah, I can kind of see it a bit in that video. And it's crazy that these are being released and they're only just about to turn Nisai as well.
Yeah,
Crazy.
like that. It's just that skin on all them fish. I love it.
Yeah,
They're just absolutely popping. So much luster to them all as well.
and this one's a bit of a beast in it as well.
It is.
It's like body shape is powerful.
Bugger.
Yeah.
You're just gonna have to hold the fort for 1 minute, Joe, because
All right.
I've just heard one of the kids' dinners go off. I need to go and dish it up. I'll literally be 2 minutes,
No
folks.
worries, mate. And so yeah, we've got another one here, which is Sakai as well again. I mean, it's knowing Ricky, it's probably just been released because of that tiny little bit of red in the pectoral fin, but I'm just been blown away really with some of the quality that's coming out of these ponds. It's phenomenal, and the red eye, I guess, but yeah, unreal. And then what else have we got? I think this one was a little Momotaro Kahaki. This one came in smaller, obviously come out smaller than a couple of the others, but that's a really exciting piece as well. I love that head pattern. Yeah, really nice. 38 centimeters that. And then what have we got here? This one, yeah, another Sakai Sankey, 43 centimeters. Really white skin on the head. Really white skin across the whole. Well, the skin quality just shines on this one as well.
Sorry about that, folks.
Yeah, just unreal. I just thought it'd be nice to share a couple of bits that's
That skin again there, isn't it? You just see it so consistently.
It's just the Benny as well. Like, I keep saying it, like the Benny is just, sometimes you just get fish that don't have it, but it seems very rare on Koi Wholesale that we end up talking about a fish that's got weak Benny. Really, it's just there's like some form of secret ingredient in the Koi Wholesale water, isn't there?
No secrets, mate. No secrets. Good food, colour food needed.
Yeah.
Obviously, the fish have got to have a bit of potential in them for it, which a lot of them from this lineage has. And UV, you need light, but it's something you need to control as well.
Yeah.
It's an interesting one.
So we've got a couple of questions.
Yes.
Do you want to start? So we got one from Kevin. Will you be getting any more Ginrin Karashigoi, please?
Kevin, I presume we mean the Dainichi yellow monkeys. If so, apparently not. Whether it's not so, I was having dinner with Takano and one of the head staff at Dainichi, who I know quite well, and apparently this year's spawn's been no good. They're not happy with the colour. So I don't know whether they'll be releasing them or not based on that. I'm not expecting it, but we'll wait and see. If they do come out, there's going to be so few of them. But yeah, from what I'm seeing, I'm not expecting it. So would I want to buy Ginrin Karashigoi otherwise? No, because actually, this is what I've always said, they're not that exciting. It's just the characteristics of these Dainichi things is insane. So what are out there in the marketplace, various dealers, I would definitely get snapped up if you're after one of those ones, because like I say, I'm not expecting anything to come this year.
Fair enough.
But that's it. Like I say, it might be wrong. You do get this general chit chat sometimes, but either way, I know they're not happy with them. So whether they choose to release some or not, they may well do. But I know they're not going to be of the quality of the previous lot gone, because I've had that firsthand.
Yeah, it's balmy, that, isn't it? You get, given the level of interest.
Breeding, mate. They've tried it. Obviously, they've tried to go to Generation 2 of Black Zeus, and apparently they've lost the body. So, as far as Dainichi Koi go, they're not going to allow that to happen, because the Dainichi brand is body.
Yeah.
So
it's almost not worth them putting them on the market if they're not happy with them, is it?
They've got to protect it, haven't they? Like any of us, where you've got your standards you uphold, and body is a characteristic of Dainichi Koi.
Yeah.
So if they can't produce it, they won't put it out there.
Yeah. Question from Kelly. I've tried using clay in my pond. Are all clays the same, or are some better than others?
Yeah, here we go. No, they're not the same. I think the base ingredient is kind of very much the same, but you've got different mixtures of minerals amongst them based on where the clays come or what's blended through it. So there's one out there which you'll struggle to get. I have mentioned this before in the UK. If you can get it, it's amazing, but it'd be expensive. The Japanese Refresh clay is just one of them products again. It's just different. You use it and you see your water just sparkle and completely transform. It's incredible stuff.
Yeah.
I don't even actually know if it's being made anymore, to be honest. I had heard that JPD had kind of took it over and put it out as the mud booster, but I can assure you that ain't the same product.
Right.
I've had the JPD mud booster and it's not Refresh.
Yeah, not the same thing.
So I don't know if that was just a bit of a wives. And I've not actually been looking while I've been in the wholesalers recently. So when I get on my next trip, I'll go and have a look at that. But yeah, they're not all the same. The one, to be honest, I've still enjoyed the Back to Plus Omizu clay. Seems to be good. And I say it again, I have noticed several times now in ponds where that's been used to have particularly strong sumi development. So it could be that some trace elements in there are having an impact and an influence on that.
Have you an opinion on the Fock clay? I've heard that is a medicinal clay, or if it's used in Japan, it's for when fish come out of a mud pond and they're extremely weak. Like, I don't know whether it's another one of these old wives' tales.
I mean, very, very few breeders you see actually using clay. That's never a thing. The thing the fish will get when they come out of the mud pond is salt.
Yeah.
You know, that's the only thing going in that water to help that. So I have seen again. I've had Fujo, the guys at NND using Refresh. I've seen it there. I've literally helped him put it into ponds before.
Yeah.
So a few do, but it's normally only to fish that they kind of very highly regard and are willing to spend a bit of money on. So
Yeah, fair play.
yeah, but I think the Japanese stuff, just as a general rule of thumb here, the Japanese products across the board, when you can get your hand on them, are a different level to anything you'll buy, but you will pay for them. But it's kind of one of those. A lot of the other stuff you buy in the marketplace, it tends to be false economy because it's just not the same quality level. This is right through to bowls, nets, even zippy nets. There's a European brands I've been buying. So the holding nets that we use, the previous ones I had came from Japan, but I can only bring them back in my suitcase. So I must have had them for 5 or 6 years before they started deteriorating. They've been solid, and they're a nice material that actually prevents the fish don't really get any rub from it because it is actually quite soft. And then we thought, you know what? Because of COVID, we needed some, couldn't get out to Japan. So ordered some from one of the European distributors or manufacturers who had them made out in China. First week of using them, we've got fish with nose rub after 24 hours of being in there because they're so rough. The nets are so rough. And now, since I've had them, the zip, the little bits on the zip you use, they're all just coming off constantly. Absolute bag of shite, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
And that's, you get what you pay for, but it's, I'm going to be probably rebuying them every bloody 18 to 24 months. So no matter how cheap they are, it's just false economy in the end.
It's something to do with European marketplace, that, innit? It's like it's the race to the bottom. How cheap can we produce it?
Price driven. Japanese, the equipment, it's people who know what the breeders need and they manufacture it. I think it's a Japanese mentality.
Yeah.
The best bit of kit they can at kind of no expense spared, and this is the price of it.
Yeah.
So that's even right through the feeder. I still hold, the Fukushima Feed Master is the best one to buy.
Yeah.
The bowls are phenomenal. Just the whole stuff, I've had breeders, they have nets for years and years and years that never get touched. And I've got nets over here that from batch to batch differ in quality, and just got no backbone to them, which is a shame.
Yeah.
But there we go.
Here's an interesting one. I think it's not really a question. It's more of just a subject to conversation, isn't it? Longfins.
Hey, look, don't get me wrong. They're not. I appreciate them when they're done well.
Yeah.
I think that's important to do with all varieties in koi, regardless of your general like or dislike towards it. As a hobbyist wanting to learn as much as you can about koi, I think it's crucial that you learn to appreciate the quality and everything. And when longfins are done well, the amount of varieties someone like Suda produces in longfin, it's insane. And getting that, when you see the quality finish, more so in the younger examples, you've got to say that's like job well done. That's where I'm out of it. Bravo. There is a market for them for sure. We've proved that. Took us a while to get through them. I think it was the best part of the year, but 2,500 we had in, and they all went.
Yeah.
So it's it's each to their own. Let's say I'll never mock it because it's a skill to produce them, and hats off to the guys that do, because it's not easy.
No, it
Do
seems
them
to
in
be
many
like
varieties as they do, and I wouldn't want to see anything kind of stopped. And interestingly, longfins play a really. I'm yet to truly dig into it. I don't know the full history of them because I've never seen massive longfins. But something to do with the blood, they're used in quite a few. I know Marihiro used a longfin in one variety that he gets big back in its history. And I remember the other one, Shinoda. The early part of the Shinoda lineage, there's longfin blood in there. So it's something they hold in regard for that reason. And so can't
really
be
interesting.
You've not got to love them, like you've not got to love Shisui, which I see is lined up in the next questions and things like that. But I think as an all-round hobbyist, it's very, very good to learn about them anyway. Learn to appreciate them. If you don't like one, don't have one in your pond. It's as easy as that.
It does seem like there's more of a snobbery around them here than in other countries like the States, for example. And I think we're a bit ahead in terms of like koi appreciation
I agree with
than
that.
maybe
Yeah.
some other countries, but maybe there's a bit more snobbery here, whereas the
Oh,
actual
completely.
yeah, and I think with the common koi keeper, like obviously a lot of people tuning into this are probably further along in the koi hobby than 90% of people will be in terms of wanting to know and study koi and listen to yourself, for example. But the common person that goes to a garden centre, for example, will be most likely look at a longfin and not think twice about it.
Yep.
And I don't know whether or not you can just dismiss that from the
No,
industry.
because what's happening there is you're getting someone who's buying what they like.
Yeah, yeah,
Takes a fancy. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, you need to
yeah,
go with that gut instinct.
yeah,
It's end of the day, it's the hobby and it's for enjoyment, and you've got to enjoy what you're looking at. That really is at the heart of it.
yeah,
It only
totally.
needs to be, that refinement needs to come in depending what you want out of the hobby.
Hmm.
That's the real strong bit. For me, if I'm wanting to compete at a show in Japan, I can't accept, and it's, don't get me wrong, the showing scene out there is not on the assassination level like I see over here in the UK. It's a completely different ball game, and there's a lot of passion driven in the whole scene out there. But you've got to know how to pick a fish for it,
Hmm. Yeah,
because you're competing at a serious level. So I can't just go with, well, I like it. That might not compete.
mm,
That attitude might not compete there. But yeah, I think, yeah, enjoying it is important. And like I was, when it comes to the commercial side of it, I have to be a bit more cutthroat, because I'm applying resources which cost money to raising batches of fish. And if the outcome of fish that are commercially no good to sell, we all know where that's going to end.
hmm,
So it's really,
yeah,
really important you learn that art of selection and have to be a bit ruthless. But when we're talking a hobby side of it, for some people, these are just pets.
yeah,
And
yeah,
nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But that is then, yeah, you go with what you like, what takes your
yeah,
fancy, what catches your eye.
yeah, exactly. Well said. Are there any benefits to adding garlic? Don't think it's something I've covered with yourself, that garlic.
Garlic's a flavour enhancer. That's all we're at. I'm not buying into all these health benefits and shit like that. That's not. I don't. But for me, what you're doing with this, all I see there, and even let's get a bit of keep it simple in here. All I see there is faff.
Mm,
And where we need to be out there is just making sure they're just having a complete, all round beneficial diet in the
yeah,
first place. But again, as a hobbyist, if you feel like you want to faff and it's necessary, you're not going to do any harm adding garlic to your food. Let's say it is a flavor enhancer. Flavor is important. If you are using a food that might not be as well developed in the flavor department, then it will probably help them to get more of it down. And I do see this. You do see fish turn their nose up at foods. And anybody who develops a good food knows that flavor is very, very important.
yeah.
Getting that. So because we want to obviously get a decent quantity of that food down the fish.
It's really interesting with have you another question just from me, this one. Pearl barley. Have you ever fed pearl barley to koi? Or
No,
no.
probably
No,
know the answer to that.
yeah. Just thought it's something that goes around the show scene. Is pearl barley a month before you show, and I think they do it to like pack
Sorry,
out a koi.
awkward. There's a little voice in background.
Oh, no worries.
No, pearl bar, mate. Again, I mean, you've got tools out there now, and maybe it worked for people in the past. I've never faffed. It's not a way or a technique I use for conditioning shiroji, because you've got to obviously, when you're doing these things, there's other things we're looking at, not just conditioning white skin.
Yeah.
It's all right, but we're at the same time as doing that, we're also trying to maintain all the other colors and maintain body and all the rest of it. So yeah, that's not for me. Again, there might be people out there who has tried it, but yeah, it's like the whole wheat germ thing. I don't buy into the whole wheat germ concept.
Yeah. No.
I do think that is a marketing ploy that's ultimately been developed to sell fish food to koi keepers in winter.
Yeah, I did pick up the Hikari wheat germ. one before I started listening to there was one of the Koi Talk podcasts I think you mentioned, and he said I don't use wheat germ because as soon as I start feeding it, the bellies pop out.
Mm-hmm.
And I had that exact experience as well. Like they just go around it's like the gut just pops out.
Yeah.
And so I wouldn't feed it again. I
No,
mean, I
because
wasn't.
ultimately it's designed to feed at temperatures you probably don't want to be feeding at. So,
Yeah,
guys, just excuse me 1 second again. I do apologise about this.
no worries. So I'll see if I can answer Rory's question here. Going to try and heat as long as possible this winter, which means covers on. What? Oh, you're back again. Switch you around. Fun and games at the Stoddart household.
Good day.
Gonna put the covers on. Color wise, do you make up for the lack of UV with color food, or how do you make back any losses from having the covers on over winter?
Yeah, I mean, color food's going to help, but you do ultimately need UV as well. So obviously, it is going to help, definitely. But how do you make it up? Yeah, it's tough. I had some issues with this last winter. I feel like winter was very dark and dingy. Autumn, winter, that whole period seemed to go on for an eternity.
Yeah,
Well, there just didn't seem to be a lot of light, and I saw it really impact quite a few fish, even when we were having colour food, and that was uncovered as well. Just in the greenhouses, but I've got full, obviously, UV penetration through them. So yeah, it's just one of them things to manage. The only way you're going to compensate for it is lighting that's going to emit the colours of the spectrum properly, and some UV as well, if possible. I've seen people, they're trying to bring different light units to market that can help up, because it is something we know is an issue. But yeah, to be honest with you, the growing in winter, it's just going to be a downside. What happens is, if you're feeding the colour food, you're going to help keep it there, probably more so than it would, and then they'll just catch up as spring comes round again. In all fairness,
I took a fish
your
from
only other
it.
way to it is obviously not to grow them through winter. But if that's tactically what you've lined up to do, then fair play. But typically, when you pull the water off, you're going to stop stretching the colour and allow it to actually start developing and thickening a bit more, as opposed to stretching it.
The fish that have been indoors, you can always tell which ones they are, and I find that you can see a fish that's reared indoors versus outdoors, and it's once you've seen as many koi as I think yourself has, you can see that, and it's whether or not you can almost come back from that. If it's been in from Tosai through Nisai and it's really weak, benny, patchy, whether or not you can come back.
If it's been in like a garage grow on or something like that, you can, so long as you don't take it right. If there's enough quality in the colour, you'll bring it back. The issue that happens is, and this is only an issue, don't get me wrong, if that fish is something you're looking to raise up to a future show winner, or something like that, and especially at Japan level, where you're competing against everyone who's done it really well. So every year is a case of layering that colour on more and more and more to get it finished and get the true thickness and depth. So if you've got a 6-month period where that's done nothing but actually retract because it's had no UV and it's grown and stretched, you're already 6 months behind.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in the case of a Kohaku, that's not too bad because there's only that and the Shiroji. But in a variety where you've also then got Sume, like Showa and Sankey, for example, there might come a point if that's the style of Sume on a Showa, when it peaks, there might be a short period where you'll maintain it at its peak, and then it could go beyond that to a point where you'll never have that Sumi hit its peak again. And if the Benny hasn't come in, trying to finish succinctly with that, game over at your show chances.
Yeah. Do you know, it sparked a bit of a question in me, that. So one of the examples I can think about where people might get a bit confused is Takano's underground ponds that he has, almost like so that's not got direct sunlight, has it? But his
Not
fish won't be
over the top, but there's literally every section around it is a plain glass window.
Yeah.
So there is some daylight and UV getting in there.
Yeah.
Not completely in the dark.
And the fish won't be staying there all year round, I wouldn't have
No,
thought.
we're
More of
6
like a
months, but
temporary.
they're just there for winter.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Winter
Yeah,
and
it's
spring.
interesting. Yeah, we got this question from Crafty about Shisui. I think he's got a nice, good one he wants to sell here as well from his Kawakami harvest. But seems to be very, very Marmite. What tips can you give to help keep the quality of the koi? And what should you look for in a very high
Well,
quality
the big
piece?
thing, obviously, Shisui, there's Benny there to deal with. So you've got to look after that red colour. That's very, very important. So the same kind of keeping as you would for a good Go Sankey is crucial. The thing with Shisui is that they're basically Asagi. You know, it's almost your Deutsch Asagi there, so to speak. They're very, very closely related. So there's naturally Asagi with the first evolution of koi from Magoi. So Asagi naturally carry a lot of darkness under the skin, which is all constantly trying to creep out. And basically the colour on there is what's trying to keep that black and that darkness at bay. So back then that helps you get into a mindset of, right, how do I control the sumi? Because that's basically what we're doing and need to do. So don't get me wrong, this will react. Sumi as Sumi does react differently in all kinds of water. It's not just a case of hard or soft, because like I've mentioned before, I know a dealer who has very soft water and he cannot keep a Shisui in there for the love and the money. Iowakaba as well, which are basically a yellow Shisui, because they've got all that Shisui blood in. Can't keep them. Yet my water is harder than his, and I can, as you've seen, can keep them really well. So it's more about the actual makeup of the water that's going to influence that. And that, when I say that, that's all your trace elements and your metals and everything else going on there. So that's the big part there, Sumi control. And another way you can control Sumi is with heat and temperature. So naturally, Sumi tends to drop off. Other than it coming of age, when the fish are younger, Sumi will naturally react to temperature. When it's warmer, it'll drop off. As it gets cooler and cooler and cooler, it'll tend to harden up and strengthen up more. So if you keep raising Shisui how I am, where they're going to be warm a lot of the time, that is going to help keep any Sumi progression and darkening up of those fish at bay, which will naturally come. It will come with age, as it does with Asagi. It will come with age, regardless of water. It will come, but it's just holding that process off as much as you can. And having these big growth spurts and in the warmer water will slow that process down. If your water is of the type that will just really develop Sumi, there's not too much you can do about it, other than when you're selecting them young, get them as light and as clean as possible. That's really, really important. Just like when I select Asagi, we'll go with all the super pale ones.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah,
the ones that are white.
Almost.
Yeah.
You know, and I've had some of them in some of the ponds we've done. There was some in that Suka pond already. They're at a point now where, you know, they've progressed no end since then, and they're starting to look like Asagi.
Yeah.
You know, it's why I don't trust breeders when they produce Yuki Asagi, because basically most of the time, I know of one breeder, I'm not going to mention it, but this was 1 year, all of a sudden he produces Shisui, Asagi, Kamonryu, Deutsche Chiba. So all of a sudden this 1 year he's got Deutsche Karasugoi, thinking, oh wow, fair play. And then he's got Yuki Asagi. Also, wow, fair play. Oh, chat, so what have you done to produce these? Well, this is the son. Well, my dad used to throw the Deutsche Karasugoi away.
Right.
Okay, that was out the Kamonryu spawning. So what about the Yuki Asagi? He says, well, my dad used to throw them away as well.
Jesus.
Just the Asagi that show no signs of developing anything. But in that case, there's always that potential. If one of those fish hits the right water or at a certain age, it will no longer be a Yuki Asagi and will just develop into a normal Asagi.
Yeah.
Very, very difficult with them to know what's around the corner.
Yeah. It's really interesting. Like all of a sudden, Yuki Asagi we're seeing from multiple different breeders now as well. It's just different. I don't know.
Often it can just be that though. You know, once upon a time we were throwing it away.
Yeah.
Keeping it and chancing it and seeing what happens.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah. So yeah, that's coming back to it. That's where, paler the better. With the patterns, obviously you have a few types of Shisui. You've got the normal type, you've got Hana Shisui and He Shisui. You don't see too many He Shisui about. It's where the pattern is pretty much head and body almost completely dominated by the Benny. So they are a bit of a rarity. I think we've possibly got one-ish in that, one or two out of that whole batch like that. Becoming more and more common, like the Hana style Shisui with the real informal patterns and quirkiness to them. They're pretty cool. They can have a head pattern as well. Really get some interesting stuff out of them.
Yeah.
The real strong characteristic is, and the kind of judged by, is the quality of the scale line down the dorsal. That in a dream world is going from the back of the head to right through to the tail, to the peduncle, and you're having uniformity there and the neatest, tidiest line possible. As I say that, just remember, it's not easy to get those ones like that. But that is one thing I like with the Kawakami. He probably produces that characteristic stronger than anybody else I know.
Yeah.
His lineage, it's impressive.
What about scales down the lateral line? A yes or a no?
Yeah, you can have them. There's nothing wrong with that. Again, it's just what you've got to remember, and this is possibly why the Kawakami ones grow so well, is often when Deutschfish are being produced and you get that scale down that lateral line, it's because they're not as many generations into inbreeding to actually get rid of the scales.
Right, I see.
Yeah, so to get that point, this is why I laugh about the Japanese image of Deutsch fish. They've become, especially like with Deutsch Go Sanki, absolutely no scales.
Right.
Just the ones down the dorsal line. That's it. But that is a hell of a lot of inbreeding to get to that point, which is why Deutsch fish generally don't grow so well and suffer with a serious amount of deformities. That's also where we're at with that one.
Because they're so closely related, is what you're saying.
Yeah. Obviously, for breeders to maintain and develop these lineages, they're having to obviously literally inbreed to do it.
Yeah.
This is where most of the Japanese varieties are at. But with these ones, it's harder than ever, because what tends to find is when you see that strong scale line is they're not as heavily inbred. So they're a lot young. The generations of them are probably a lot younger, not crossed, or they are focusing on growth and purposely not trying to focus on getting shut of that and removing that characteristic. Them spawnings will produce the odd ones like that, but generally you'll see it a lot. Miyatora done Deutsch Showa like that, and I know they're not many generations down because and I can see the body type in them. Actually, they've got big body types like these Shisuis. Yamaju has a really refined Shisui that you don't really get any scales crop up on, which is good. And he is strong with Shisui, but there is a size cap to him. So yeah, like I say, Miyatora has the same thing with his Deutsch Showa, the Deutsch down the scale line, and that's what it is. I've followed Miyatora since he started breeding them, so I know they're not as established as like Shinoda or Hiroi Deutsch Go Sanki, because they have perfected that complete smoothness in them.
Yeah, so difficult to do. And the last bit on Shisui, there's the color of the scales along the spine. What have you got like an ideal color in mind for the scales?
They're dark. They're a dark grey.
Yeah,
black. That's where they should be.
Yeah, right.
And then obviously, just for one people might not know of, there is a variant of this, pretty much like the Yuki Asagi, but of Shisui, and it's called a Kosui. And that's basically a Shisui with, it's a red and white Shisui. I know that's going to get confusing because you're thinking Deutsch Kohaku, but you kind of get the Shisui patterns of it. And generally the scale line down the dorsal has no colour.
Right, okay.
Or isn't there. They are superb when you see them good. I think it was either last autumn or the autumn before. Hosakai produced one that Narita ended up with, and it was a marathon one as well. It was absolutely off the chain.
Wow.
But they are a rare beast. Just like Yuki Asagi, to be fair. Very rare beast.
Have you ever seen a Ginrin Shisui? Like, I'm surprised nobody's really done that to an extent.
Yeah. I can't remember. I think it was probably from Marihiro, actually, thinking about it. But it's not that great of a thing because a lot of them, like I said, not got a massive amount of scales on.
Yeah, just that I'd love a Ginrin down the zipper. I think that'd look awesome if someone could do that. But yeah, I don't know.
I'll have a word for you, Joe.
Yeah, thank you. Put a word in, yeah. That's enough Shisui talk, I think, there. Hi, Ricky. How about the Facebook post about stocking density? How does it affect bacteria pathogen pressure when the pond is heavily stocked? Is it more likely to go wrong faster regarding bacteria?
Always.
Yeah.
That's why it's important to keep a clean, healthy environment when you're doing it. The stocking's all right, but if you allow debris to accumulate somewhere or something like that, yes, at that point, say you get a parasite outbreak, a bad batch of Costia, the aftermath of that can come very quickly, and the nasty aftermath. You've got to be careful. You've got to be careful to avoid those kind of triggers as well. But yeah, when it's heavily stocked, you've got to keep it say oxygen levels as high as you can, and just getting the waste out, keeping that system clean. So you just, as I spoke about before, you don't tip those scales where the bad group of bacteria is thriving over the good.
Yeah.
Very, very important.
No, that makes sense. Interesting comment here from Terry. Got a hold of a Sakai Sankey. It has a particular way of swimming. Looks like it's wading like a shark. No deformities that I can find. Got it like this since I got it. Any ideas?
In all honesty, from what you've described there, sounds like a Swimbladder issue.
Yeah.
Terry, to be honest. That's when they start swimming laboured. I know that movement you're on about is really kind of strong, like they're putting a lot of effort into swimming. And that's often when they're overcompensating because the swim bladder's not helping to do its job.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Let's have a look. Oh, my comment from Howie Koi. What about golden corns? I think this was about you were answering about Ginrin Karashigoi.
Oh, no, it's the batch coming in. So, yeah, it's on the Taniguchi stuff, which are on the way soon.
Ah, okay, nice. On food, what temperature would you look to move them over to lower fat content, and what percentage is best used to unheated?
Yeah, me. So I'm looking at these adjustments as soon as you dip in below 18 degrees.
Yeah.
You even got to be careful to feed high fat really below 22. So even at 18, you're probably looking more, if we're talking sake terms, like moving towards balance and offer the growth, to be honest with you. What pursuit is just as low as possible. I think, don't quote me on this. In fact, I'm not even going to say it because I can't remember all the figures. But if I remember right, you're going to be in the realms of, it's not 20%. No, I'm backing away from that one.
Yeah.
I can't remember it. If Joe remembers to pull some figures out, I'll have a look at it. But if you look at the fat contents of wheat germ, that's decent. And I think they generally tend to align with like the fat content of like a sake multi-season or sake balance. That's where you want to be, not 20%. Because I know sake growth hits about somewhere between 10 to 14%, somewhere around that.
I'm just going to have a look at sake balance in background, see if I can find it.
That was years ago since I scrutinized all that stuff.
Yeah. Please, can you discuss Coda's breeder? Bagged some nice toes from Crafty team at Perfect Aquatics. Is the focus on quality rather than size with Coda? Does the quality stand up as they age?
Quality does stand up with age. Coda is a breeder. I was actually discussing this with him on my last trip. I said, I'd take my hat off to you because you produce everything that's difficult. And I was speaking to him about Deutz Harawaki at that point because he just harvested a pond with him, and the amount of rejects in there was just bonkers. Because I think there's only 2 or 3 breeders in the whole of Japan trying to produce Harawaki. It's mental. It's really, really mental. And that's why, it's tough. It's really, really tough to do. And then it's just no end of stuff. Goshki in themselves are a challenge. He does that. He does the Ginrin version. Ginrin Go Sankey. Deutsch Showa, another really, really hard one to produce. He's been trying to make Pearl Ginrin in his Goshki as well. Deutsch Goshki on top of that. I'm probably going to even miss some there. It's just the list goes on, and none of this is easy stuff. He must just clearly have a talent for getting it done. So yeah, amazing. But when you are a breeder focusing on that stuff, then trying to add the size element to it just adds a serious complication. And when I say size, was talking most koi from decent farms are always going to do 60, 65, 70 cm. That's pretty normal. When we say size, we're talking about going beyond them realms, going 75, 80 and beyond that, which for a lot of these varieties is just impossible anyway. They're not genetically allowed to do it. But yeah, his focus is on quality for sure, not pushing them. He doesn't raise jumbo tosai, doesn't do any of that. It's just all mud pond raised during the summer. And yeah, the focus is on just getting the variety stable and the quality of the variety stable that he produces.
Yeah.
Musky shoulder as well. We've had from him. You know, when that mix comes through, it's just got all sorts in it. It's a delight.
Yeah, I like a quarter fish. Never really seem to see like weak fish in the batches, do you? You know, there's always something a little bit. I mean, you get weak fishes that you release early, but yeah, just always
No,
seems to be
he's
the
good.
ones you progress into Nisai at Koi Wholesale tend to be
Like
good.
Sankey, it's just phenomenal. Got a Benny
Yeah,
Camonru, he does as well. Nuts. When I was there, actually, you remind his first attempt at doing what is it, raising fish himself for koi shows using indoor over the summer.
right.
And it was nice because I walked in and instantly I walked up to this pond and just went, holy shit. It was just like, wow.
Yeah,
You imagine seeing worldy examples of all them varieties I just mentioned all in one pond.
yeah.
It was insane. But again, I know there was no focus on size, but it was even better when I saw down. I went, oh, that Goshki's nice. I went, shit, that's mine. Brilliant.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's a bonus. Yeah.
Dead happy with that.
Hi, Ricky. With all the auctions going off at the moment in Japan, is it just 2-year-old plus available, or do they do Tosai auctions?
Yeah, so auction season at the moment in Japan will be Nisai. It is really now Nisai season, Nisai and older. So they will focus on that. Tosai business is going on. I've already got, there's going to be 2 lots coming in this month for me. So that's, mega early, but that's what we do. We start early with that stuff. But yeah, generally a lot of the auctions you'll see, even from ourselves and bits that we're doing, is going to focus heavily on 2-year-old and above at this point, because like I say, it's the season for it.
Yeah, yeah. That's true. Paul, how are you doing, Paul? Do you think there are any smaller breeders like Takano that are going to come to market soon?
Oh, Paul, you tell you what, I've got one of these. I can't let it slip because these little things I have to try and take advantage of as much as I can. And if I let it out here before I know it, there'll be a queue waiting at the door before it even happens. So yeah, I do know of one that's really interesting. It's a friend of mine out there who's introduced me to people in the past, and yeah, he's getting back into breeding himself. So trust me, this guy's got a pedigree, and he's spawned shower this year. I've seen the set. Should be Ginrin in there as well, and yeah, when I get out there this autumn, I'm paying him a visit to see the results of that first crop, and fingers crossed be able to help him out by relieving him of some of them, even if they're not that good, to be honest with you. He's getting into it. If he wants to get some sold, it's that kind of thing that I would buy them anyway, just to help support him get off the ground, because that kind of stuff's really important for the future, because I know he's got the capability to crack it one day.
Yeah. And it's one of them, isn't it? Like, I know that building relationships with some of these breeders can probably help in future if you're investing into them early, and come a few years time down the line, might give you access to fish there that you might not have had if you
Exactly.
didn't support him earlier on as well.
Exactly.
So yeah, interesting.
Hmm.
Here we go. Hi Ricky, will you keep all fish in polytunnels heated over winter, or only certain ponds just to keep it stable?
Yeah, so I keep everything on, because what we've found is the heating system in the main stretch with the 18 ponds in, that they're all individually temperature controlled. But when we've got them on, I don't cover those ponds inside the greenhouse because I like full visibility of what's going off. So even there, what we tend to do is when the ponds, if we completely shut the heat off to them, but the others are on, they'll ambiently hold at 16 they will not drop below it. So because there's just a lot of residual heat kicking around.
Yeah.
So we just tend to keep everything up because I don't like that temperature. So I'll just tend to keep 18 degrees minimum. But we'll generally be kind of anything from 18 to 25 degrees in most of them ponds. But we are working them. So if it's fish that I'll just conditioning more, so I'll drop it down to 18. If we're still growing it, they'll be anywhere from 22 to 25. And then remembering we'll be filling up with a lot of toci over this period now anyway. So they're going to be growing.
Yeah.
Just make it. The boiler's really efficient, and it's to be honest with you, whether we shut them a few off or what, the oil usage is pretty much the same. So I just think just keep it all running and take advantage of it.
Yeah. I have to say it's probably the most impressive part of the farm is how you navigate the inside ponds and moving stuff in, moving stuff out, and it's very regimented. People maybe, I think there's a podcast to be done probably just on that alone, to be honest. And
it all falls. The issue is right now I need to move out way more fish than I just have done.
Oh God, don't say that.
It's just like I look at it and think, yeah, that could probably do with some more time, or I just can't do it half the time. And they're building up. I really need to crack on and get these new ponds built, which I think we're going to break ground on that soon. It's got to happen.
Yeah, awesome. Crafty Koi, Aragoki Koi have been popular variety this year. Some bangers sold after purchase from yourself. Who's the best breeder, and is there any talk in Japan on this variety?
Yeah, there's obviously quite a few at it. Marihiro's dabbling. The full-blown Aragoki, really, the main man for it is Ikarashi Toshinobu in Niigata, and then a breeder called Oyama in the south. Toshinobu was probably the man mastered it the best. He actually started it before anybody else as well. Issue with him is a lot of his fish are very pricey, to be fair, always has been. And yeah, other than that, not masters. Actually, interestingly, and this is a whole mindset, and a lot of the guys not understanding, what demand is in the market at times. On this last trip, when I was with Makoto at NND, we're up in the mountains, and this Kikukuru spawning coming, and there was a few Aragoki style in there,
right?
I picked it up and I literally said to him in Japanese, I says, "You know how popular these are right now?" And he just looked at me and went, "Really?" And yeah, like seriously. And he just kind of shook his head at me.
Yeah. Crazy,
so not a lot of them fully get it, but Toshinobu, since he took, for those that don't know, you may have heard of Ikarashi Kazuto, the farm. Kazuto was when the father was running it, so that's his name. Toshinobu is his son, who obviously since Kazuto passed has taken over. And as Kazuto, it was the Gosanki hotspot in Mushigame. It was just always an absolute dream. And I think Toshinobu's been more focused on all that weird, quirky stuff and really thrown some really weird shit out of there in the past.
Yeah.
Years. So, and yeah, I think he's probably the main man for the really weird, the really extreme. And I think it kind of suits his personality when you meet him as well.
Yeah. It's really interesting that I think Okawa, you correct me if I'm wrong,
we had them from Okawa.
Yeah.
It was a one-off spawning that he did, and I don't think he liked them. So
no. Well,
happened again.
I was at the Kyushu auction last November, and he put one into the auction that was held at a bigger koi farm, and all the fish were held at that koi farm and then photographed and put up, and it was the only fish in the auction that they'd put 1 star on. All the others were like 2 and above, and all the breeders were coming over to him and giving him slack for this fish he's put in the auction. But it went for a decent amount of money. But this is what I think the Japanese breeders, like you've just said, like that's popular over here, but not over there. It's really interesting.
That's exactly where it's at. It's them breeders that are quite either just driven by their own curiosity and passion and challenge of breeding, or understand what's happening commercially.
Yeah. Crazy. But some awesome bits from the Otsuka, which were like almost Aragoki style with the you had a large scale Akamatsuba, large scale Asagi in the Otsuka mix, some really weird and wonderful.
Yeah, see, I'd have called them literally Deutsch. It looked like a Deutsch Akamatsuba. We knew it was something different. And curious there, is it a one-off and he's just decided to start keeping them? that could quite literally have been in his spawnings and he's been culling them for years.
Yeah.
Or is he trying something different? He's a very clever breeder, Otsuka. He
Yeah.
produces some challenging stuff. So when I see it, I often think, oh, God, then what we're playing with here.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting.
Talented bloke. Any more questions, Joe?
Yeah, let's have a look. So, do you think there's any chance of buying Joe a new hoodie as he's worn that last few shows? This is comfy, this. Don't give me slack on me hoodie.
We are on. This is the issue. It's just such a list of stuff we're constantly doing. But workwear and merch, it's all on that list. We'll get round to doing it one day. I've got to build a new fish house first, though, folks.
We've got Steve from Pengoy.
Glad you enjoyed it, buddy. Very glad you enjoyed it.
This is about the fish that swims a bit weird. Should have added that it holds its peck out. Almost looks tight the way it holds them. No issues with balance.
It's not to do with this. It's just me, Terry. I think you've got a Swimbladder issue going on, mate. That's why it's swimming late, but it will hold its pecs out like that. So I think that's where you're at.
And then going back a little bit, I have a 70 centimetre female chag that swims fine, but sleep/rest vertical with its lips touching the bottom drain. It can't lay normal, comes to the surface fine. Any ideas? That is peculiar.
Also, possibly sounds like it could be a bit Swimbladder related.
Yeah.
You know, if it gets its buoyancy right for swimming, but in rest is struggling to keep itself down, sounds like it's in that kind of ballpark.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then last one that's just come in now. Good evening, gentlemen. How do the breeders identify Koi as potential parent Koi?
A lot. I've had a lot of thoughts, right? Because a lot of the interviewing me and Rie were doing was all around historic of bloodlines and the current state of bloodlines and stuff like that, which was interesting, which got me to thinking, this is going to go off topic a little bit, got me thinking that, really as hobbyists, you guys should be paying more attention to, if you want to get into that set, the actual more of the parent set, the top line parent set that fish has come from, as opposed to anything historic on the bloodline. Because there's the basic theme, especially when we've been talking Kohaku and Sankey, the basic kind of theme is these days there is no kind of purity left there. It's all one big incestuous pool, pretty much. So it's really, if you want to look at potential traits it could inherit, the majority is you want to be looking directly above at the parent set it spawned from.
Yeah.
That's my thoughts on where we're at with this. It's going to be really, really important to understanding any potential offspring. There could be, if you see something throw, i.e., this is one thing I picked up, which was cracking when we interviewed Carno. I asked him about the shine in his fish, in his Sankey, that ginks. The only other place I've seen that is in Matsunoski Sankey. It is a Matsunoski characteristic. So obviously, me knowing that the lineage of Takano comes from Marado crossed with Sakai, I'm like, where the hell has that come from? Is it isolated to one of the fish? One of the parent fish specifically? He went, no. And then he starts telling me, again, it's what come from him. I don't know if it's actual fact. We'll get to that at some point. But he tells me that the foundation of Sakai back in its early days was Matsunoski. And Matsunoski was actually the base of so many Sankey lines back then. You know, you could probably trace almost all of them back to it in all reality. Momotero's base of Sankey was Matsunoski. You know, so many of it. So that there is a trait that's way, 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 way back in a gene pool somewhere that's managed to throw itself out in his combination. Obviously, don't come out. It's not in every offspring, but he does get a hell of a lot of it. And to be honest, then he did say it's a characteristic I liked. So when fish did start showing it, he's then tried to take that and produce it further from his offspring.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what is. And that there just tie into the question a little bit. So it's them looking for characteristics that they like in fish or want to see in their offspring for a start, that they'll be looking for in the parent fish. Obviously, size can be important. Age can be important, because how do we know if they're trying something out at 3 years old when it could potentially spawn? How do they know that's a fish that can grow to 90 cm? If that's something they're looking for, to know that fish has got the capability to grow to 90 cm or a meter, How do they know it's 3 years old? They don't. So they could just be wasting their time. So that might be why they choose to use an older, bigger, mature fish that has done the business and they know what it can achieve. Often or not, the pairing, obviously, body is massive. That's just, you can't think Japanese koi without thinking body. So it's a huge, huge part of it. Obviously, the direct parents that the fish they're looking at have come from will play a part, and knowing the characteristics of those lineages. And again, I mean, these days, even so, it's so limited. Sakai is just such a big part of it. There's just Sakai blood in almost everything as you scatter around. This is why we say it's all too mangled up. So that's why I think it's very important to look at the parent fish it's come from more than anything.
Yeah, there was an interview.
And
Somebody,
sorry, just to remember a bit. Obviously, another part they look for then is often a male fish to compensate for characteristics they feel the female may lack.
Yeah.
Well, and they've all got different approaches. Ikarashi Kazuto, when I interviewed him on this years ago, he often used to use old, mature male fish that were bigger but still retain quality while they were older. Because back then that was rare for male fish to do. So these were hard to come by. So if he saw an old, mature male that was big, he's thinking, wow, there's real longevity and quality there, and that was important to him. So he would use that to cross in, but the downside to that is often the fertilization rate will be a bit lower or a lot lower. So the output from his spawnings were a lot less, but he accepted that.
Yeah, it's really fascinating, and I think that's another subject you could go on for hours. Like there was an interview that were done in Japanese but translated into English with Omasako, and I found that fascinating. He said I think there was a small regional show that they'd won an award with the Shiro. He said, "Oh, what was it bred from?" And he says this one was 2 Shiros, and that's why it's never going to grow essentially, because it's from 2 Shiros. If he adds something in that can help it grow, then he lacks in quality. And then it's really a toss up.
That there is your inbreed and outbreeding process.
Yeah.
And that is a bit of a head mash.
Yeah.
And
that
really is.
It makes you wonder, like, Sakai have obviously over the last couple of years, again, you might tell me wrong, have added like a jumbo Karashigoi to their Kahaku spawnings.
Yeah, more often than not, but obviously there again they're looking at growth. Sakai are very, very good. It's very science and data driven at Sakai.
Yeah.
Why I think, it's kind of like the wild hippies, or bloody whatever you want to call it, the Wild West out in Niigata, where they're all just kind of shooting from the hip. But Sakai is a clinical operation, and the amount of data they've got is phenomenal.
Yeah.
So I think they generally operate, if I remember right, from 2 base lines. Yeah, so as order not to get that blood too close, they are using all these lines that all share characteristics of Sakai, but obviously it allows them to stop the blood getting too close by using them from these 2 different family trees.
Interesting. That's something I've learned tonight. I didn't know that. So there you go. We've just about crossed the hours there, so that's been
so I've
really
got
quickly.
People, a bit of a carry on for you. I can't wait to see how much the kids trash the house as well. But yeah, so I've been mentioning it a few times now. It's come to fruition. The Nishikoi Journal, my little personal projects, vlogging, just sharing my thoughts, enjoyments, everything I've got going on as a koi keeper, koi dealer, whatever you want to call it. The first video over on YouTube is going to drop in 10 minutes time, 7:15. So
nice.
it's the first entry. I think there's possibly going to be about 1 or 2 a week. We've got quite a few lined up from the Japan trip. So yeah, feel free to head on over there, give that a little watch. It was quite a fun little journey from one of my days on my trip. And yeah, there's some really, really nice ones heading over. So yeah, please have a watch, drop a like on it, subscribe, all that, so that channel can start moving. Would be much appreciated. And yeah, see what comes from it. I'm quite enjoying shooting that content. None of it's done. I have had Rob editing it, to be fair, because I've not got time, but all the shooting is just done with me and my iPhone. So very personal, and I can take it everywhere with me.
Yeah,
Can't take
nice.
Rob everywhere with me, and I'm sure he won't want to either.
Fair play. Nice. I'm going to tune into that one. Sounds interesting. So,
Yes.
right, guys. Great evening.
Magic.
We'll see
Thanks
you
for
again
everyone
next
who's
week.
tuned in.
All right.
Cheers,
See you
folks.
later.